In every great city, there are places where the masses gather to witness the heroic battles of sport. And for the men who rode Supercross in those famed stadiums, arenas, and coliseums, some of those battles rise above all others, for they are known as the greatest. To begin, we start with the end of one of the greatest Supercross careers ever. Ricky Carmichael had made the decision to end his professional career in 2007, following his 5th Supercross championship in 2006. He would only ride a few races that year, with his last in Orlando, Florida, in front of a hometown crowd and against his rival, James Stewart.
Considering the circumstances of my children just being born like 24 hours before and me staying up all night and helicoptering into the race that morning, that was my last Supercross, so I had zero pressure.
You know, it was so definitive that these other things going on in his life, and he's able to just block it out, focus one more time. I've got one more Supercross.
RC was different. Every time I raced against Ricky, he always gave it his best. He put the helmet on. Ricky is a warrior. You know, there's nothing that distracts him.
At some point, all things must end. But first, it would have to begin. Carmichael and Stewart would line up next to each other, waiting for that 30-second board to turn 90 degrees.
You know, he ended up getting a good start and getting on the lead early.
Carmichael gets a good start. He sits in third. Chad Reed, he's going to take the lead.
James and we really stepped it up. I think we caught Chad off guard.
One more time as he battles Reed for the lead.
He should have been fast enough to hang with that group. That should have been a 3-rider battle.
Here it is. There it is.
The crowd going crazy.
There was no strategy for me to get by him. There was nothing. I just get out of my way. I gotta go.
The championship line right here. Oh, Reed with a big problem, and Stewart takes over second. And Reed,
you know, I could see he was coming. But the guy in second, normally when you have that rabbit out there trying to catch you, he's gonna make up time.
Now watch the whoop section right now. Watch how much speed Stewart carries across there. Close right in on the back of Carmichael.
You know, I was like, I ain't gonna let him beat him. Sorry. Can't let him have it.
He had me covered in the hoop section. That was probably my Achilles heel.
Here's Stewart!
Keeping the tenacious Kawasaki rider at bay was taking all Ricky Carmichael could dish out, because Stewart's abilities were not to be matched.
Going out with a win, I think, was going to be you know, the icing on the cake for him.
I had to work so hard around the whole track, you know, to maintain our gap and to stay up with him. And him pull there every time. I was like, damn.
A Supercross race is 20 laps, but with the pace these two riders were on, it wouldn't be long before they would have 18 roadblocks coming into sight.
These guys have got to move out of the way and let the show go on.
Lappers are weird because, you know, one race you'll have a problem with them, and one race you won't.
And they know if Ricky's coming by, Stewart can't be far behind. Oh, no! Stewart up over the top blocks, but what a save! But that buys Ricky a few feet.
That might have been the determining factor. If he didn't get around Ryan Clark right then and there, that, you know, maybe RC would have won that race.
I had a front row seat for everything. I was like, oh, I might get a gift here.
And traffic again in the play.
And Stewart was racing him clean. Look right here.
Oh, boy.
With a clear track in front of them, Ricky and James knew they were the show. And with a night like that, they could offer up a little more for the fans.
Going over the triples, looking at each other, I mean, that was just a sign of respect, and just we were really enjoying our battle.
Back to the inside. Carmichael's in the lead again. Oh.
Takes a look over. He's going to have to back it down, cut back in.
How much fun can they be having right now?
just became your dad last night. What are you doing, bud?
That was the best I've seen James and Ricky ride together, actually.
Carmichael pulls the tear off. He knows this is it. He's got to hit this whoop section.
As the laps wound down, Carmichael had to have a plan if he was going to leave Orlando that night with the final win of his illustrious career.
I knew that that lap I had to get a good run through the whoop section, and he got an amazing run, and I had a good run there through him too, but he just edged me out and wasn't close enough to make it happen, but that was my plan.
Stewart holding him off to the final corner, and James Stewart will win in Orlando, and Ricky Carmichael will finish second.
When you can race that hard and battle that hard and do stuff like that and have fun at it, that's the best of both worlds.
I'm going home to the place where I belong.
3 races that year I wanted to beat him at. Anaheim 1, Daytona, because I knew he wanted Daytona, and obviously the last one, and I beat him in all 3.
I think Ricky would be bummed out if James Stewart laid up and let him win that race.
I have no regrets from that race. You know, even though I didn't win, there's not one thing that I can go back and say, damn, I wish I would have did this, I could have won. No way.
Pontiac, Michigan was the site of one of the greatest comebacks in Supercross history when we return. And later, the one race that sits above all others.
CBS.
6 years before Ricky Carmichael's swan song in Orlando, he was the newest Supercross champion for 2001. But defending the title in 2002 was going to be harder than winning it. In Pontiac, Michigan, he had to make up ground on the tough Frenchman David Villemin, who was running away with the points.
I started off rough. You know, I KO'd myself at the first Supercross, so I had to go out and execute and win. The only guy I cared to beat was Villemin. That's the guy I had to beat.
Ricky's Honda teammate, Nate Ramsey, had never won a premier Supercross main event, and just getting into the main event that night was challenging.
I was way outside on the last chance qualifier thinking, if I don't qualify, I'm gonna, it's gonna kill me.
Making it out of the last chance qualifier got Ramsey in the main event, but he would also get the last pick for a starting gate position.
And Ricky Carmichael making 7 in a row. We're off and running.
I got a little better than mid-pack start, and it was just a crazy, crazy race.
His first lap went by, I kind of showed Ernie a wheel, he wouldn't let me go.
Here comes Carmichael.
Just as Carmichael was getting into his rhythm to head to the front, disaster would strike, setting up one of the most dramatic comebacks in Supercross history.
I remember it was a dragon back, and I remember I was a lot faster there in that section.
He's got just about every factory Honda ride.
I looked up and I heard the crowd go crazy.
Oh, Ricky!
He kind of missed a whoop right there on that fast section and completely looped out.
My first reaction was like, oh man, he's done.
I held on to the bitter end. The thing, I just got dragged off of it, and the whole time that I was letting go, I'm just like, there goes my championship. Like, I'm seeing the bike ride off by itself, and I'm just seeing like the #1 plate going bye-bye too.
First I couldn't believe he was okay, and then he didn't just trash the bike. That right there was like, the visor's doing this,
I think half the visor broke and the other half was slammed down like this. So I tried pushing it up.
And while he was skidding on his face, all these guys were going by. Well, we don't have to worry about him anymore.
To me, at that moment, everybody's eyes were like this big.
Hey, we got a chance. That's the first thing that goes through your mind.
We can win.
But no one counted out Carmichael's desire to win, and he wasn't about to let championship points slip away.
The bike didn't crash as hard as I did. Just got back up, man, and just started digging.
He was like a little lion. He got up and started charging back to the front.
Ricky was one of those guys, he's just never give up.
He comes around the first time and his hand's down, the visor's hanging in his face, and he's trying to rip it off, and we're not worried about him. Yeah, another mistake, because here he comes.
While Carmichael began his march from almost last place, the leaders were waging their own war, and the casualties mounted.
It seemed like every time someone got in the lead, they would throw it away.
It just almost seemed as though no one really wanted to win the race.
Boy, it looks like a tight freight. Oh, Sebastian Tortelli moved in front.
You can throw a blanket over the first 6.
Check it out again. There's Tortelli going.
And Ramsey went down and held up McGrath.
And Jeremy's bumping me, like trying to get out because he was stuck. But at that point, I thought, I blew it, It's done.
The tough Costa Rican Ernesto Fonseca continued to lead, but the wiry Ezra Lusk was closing the gap.
Lusk goes for the triple. Lusk comes in front of Fonseca. Fonseca comes right back and forth we go in Pontiac.
You know, I had my problems during the race.
Lusk gets tied up a little bit, but Fonseca, Filament goes down.
8 laps in, Ricky Carmichael was back in his championship form, picking off rider after rider. Unconcerned about the visor in his face, it was all or nothing.
Is riding a second and a half faster than Fonseca and Lusk right now. Don't count Carmichael out of this race.
I had one mission, and that was to beat that number 12 on the Yamaha. And I had my eye on him the whole time.
Here comes Carmichael making the pass on Villeman.
As soon as I pass him, I'm gone. I'm out of there.
The front of the race continued to be chaotic as attrition followed.
Everybody out front, Lusk!
Lusk, number 11 in the Kawasaki. Here comes Ferry, number 15 on the 4-stroke Yamaha. Oh, Lusk goes flying.
With Carmichael on a tear, Jeremy McGrath had worked his way into 3rd and saw a possible win as well, but it wouldn't last long.
Maybe there's a chance he can get to Nate, and oh, here comes Ricky.
I went to pass him, and he just kind of looked at me.
Ricky Carmichael taking another chance by the bar. They look at each other.
He seen my visor, and he didn't even give me a fight. He just let me go.
I wasn't in peak form, and if RC was behind me, it wasn't going to take long. I mean, he believed he could beat me. He was the champ from the year prior.
By now, Tim Ferry was in the lead with Nate Ramsey in 2nd, yet it wouldn't be long for that to change as well.
Carmichael moves on McGrath into 3rd.
And Ferry went down. That's the leader.
He basically just parked over there on the left-hand side, and then I was like, oh, I think I might be leading.
Nathan Ramsey inherits that lead.
I'm like, man, that's cool. Nate's going to get a win. It'll be good for the team. But I started catching him really quick. The tide changed for me. That thought went out the window. I was like, dude, this would be awesome if I could come back and win this thing.
And he hold off Ricky Carmichael.
There's no way I'm letting somebody pass me on this last lap. This is not going to happen. Once I got through the whoops safely, then it was pretty much a done deal.
He rolled over that first little jump, and I could see it. After all that, he still wasn't going to win the race.
Nathan Ramsey!
Hit the finish line with the fireworks and everything going off, and I just couldn't believe that I was still in the lead. Ricky pulled up to me. He was seriously so happy for me. And then Jeremy pulls up, and he's all happy for me. So it's like, not only did I get to win, but I felt like everyone was cool with it.
For him to win and for myself to get 2nd and Jeremy get 3rd, that's pretty cool.
It's tough to win the 250 or 450 Supercross. That's the biggest race you can win in a sport.
There's not a big, long list of guys, so to be a part of that is a big honor.
Though there wasn't a person in Pontiac that didn't appreciate Nate Ramsey's moment, the talk was all about the red-headed lion from Florida's charge through the pack.
That was awesome. I almost stood up.
He's like Bob Hanna, he's just hanging off the back and not afraid to pull the throttle until he augers in.
He is one tough dude.
They sent me a picture in the mail, and it was me standing in between, Ricky and Jeremy. It was cool. It was really cool.
Coming up next, journey back 25 years as the little professor takes on the bad boy in a duel for the ages at the Big A. For up-to-the-minute sports news, real-time scores, outspoken writers, exclusive video highlights, and award-winning fantasy sports, go to CBSSports.com. The opening Supercross round at Anaheim in 1986 would set the bar as the greatest Supercross race ever. Honda teammates David Bailey and Ricky Johnson would find themselves in a bare-knuckle, paint-swapping brawl that is still talked about to this day.
We just had this conversation like, let's not mess this up.
Let's not take each other out, but may the best man win.
When the gate dropped, however, it was another rider who would set the wheels in motion for one of the greatest battles in motorsports history.
I don't think I was first right in the first corner, but I think I went in the lead the second, like on the straightaway.
The burner's going to town. It's going to be the burner race. Oh, here comes Ricky Johnson.
Oh, Burnworth gets knocked down by Ricky Johnson in the second corner of the race.
I was kind of, I'm like, I ain't going to do any good, you know, I'm going to do something here.
Johnson would extend his lead to 9 seconds before catching up to the first of the lapped riders, the still seething Scott Burnworth.
What do I got to lose here? Nothing. Here you go, Rick.
All of a sudden, he's really wide and he's hard to get around and he's not going as fast as he did that first lap.
Could Burnworth be a little irked at what happened early on in the race?
I'm cursing in my helmet and screaming. In a lap, I lost a 9-second lead.
Burnworth very obviously is slowing down Ricky Johnson. There's Bailey right behind him.
When I caught Rick, I was surprised, actually. It was right after the finish.
9 seconds by, Bailey's right next to him.
I remember the crowd just went nuts. And I was like, yeah, I know, huh? I thought I had it.
Goes right for the lead right there, and Johnson on the inside line has got guts.
I mean, the guy was the aggressor for sure.
This is going to be a fun
Now that these two Supercross giants had come together, what would soon unfold could only be described as epic.
It was a Muhammad Ali-Frazier fight between the two of those guys.
Again, we're looking at those monster roofs. Wow, a great pass the way that Bailey went through there on the outside of the sand.
David was as serious as a heart attack that night.
Rick was the kind of guy that if you pick up the pace, he'll just match it.
If I don't start attacking, I'm not going to be able to just sit and wear him out.
He went a lot higher than Ricky, and Ricky very nearly T-boned him right there in the corner.
They were touching so much, but nobody's falling down.
Number 6 in the red and white. Wow, another bump.
You know, like, wow.
Ricky wanted to win. Hands down.
Number 5 is the only guy in camera view right now who is on the same lap. Everybody else, they're at least 1 lap down.
You know, I kept hearing the crowd. There must be a great race up in front of me. Well, the race was actually behind me. These guys were getting ready to lap me. And
look at this. Bailey on the inside pulls the lead and takes it back again. That's the 4th time in a lap that we've had the lead change.
You can sense when somebody's coming up on you because the crowd noise follows them around the track.
And you hear the crowd, whoop, you know, all of a sudden pipe up. It's like, okay, where is he? I know he's close.
Being lapped, and there's Ricky Johnson, a great inside pass, and Bailey gets him back again.
By lap 17, however, Ricky Johnson's bulldog determination had begun to bow to the effects of the evening's effort against Bailey's persistent pounding.
I was unbelievably tired.
And I just glanced over, and it was like, he was back a bit. I'm like, finally.
And David the Bandit Bailey, number 6, the little professor.
If I was David Bailey, I probably would have cleaned out Rick Johnson.
I think the spectators love close racing. I think team managers go bald because of it.
And that's what Supercross is about. I mean, when you get a race like that, they remember it forever.
The king of Supercross, Jeremy McGrath, faces down a new challenger to his throne and kingdom when we return. Supercross in the 80s gave fans choices on who to cheer for, as any one of a number of riders could win. The 90s, however, saw the dominance of one man, who was to be crowned the king of Supercross, Jeremy Showtime McGrath. By 1996, he had already had 3 consecutive Supercross titles, and coming into round number 4 at Seattle, he had started the streak with 3 wins in a row. It was a demoralizing situation for the rest of the competition.
He didn't worry about anybody else because it was McGrath against the rest of the field.
He was pretty much making us look like idiots.
Each year there was always a new guy coming into this series, and it's like, oh, who's going to take down Jeremy? And that year it happened to be Damon Huffman.
He was pretty much untouchable.
Nothing had panned out for him at that time. For me, I thought all the threats were really gone, and it was just going to be business as usual like it always was.
Both McGrath and Huffman had gotten bad starts, and Seattle local favorite Larry Ward had jumped out to an early lead.
I don't think that Larry Ward is that intimidated by these guys, and he's already starting to pull away.
And I clearly remember McGrath passing me in one of the opening few laps. And I told myself, just stick with him.
You know he's going to the front. You do everything you can to stay on his wheel.
But it wouldn't be long before both McGrath and Huffman had Ward in their sights and would take him down, allowing the real battle to begin.
Jeremy McGrath now right on the bumper of Larry Ward.
Pretty soon we were 1 and 2 out front.
He's got the inside. Jeremy McGrath is now our leader. And look at Damon Huffman also trying to sneak in race.
You know, I think by the time Jeremy was in the front, we were kind of in cruise mode going, okay, we can just relax.
I just had no idea that Damon was behind me.
He thinks he's faster than McGrath. He's not going to let him get away. He's going to put pressure on him. This is the battle now.
That night, Huffman had the whoop section dialed. I mean, dialed.
Look at Huffman to the whoop section. He's got a beautiful line, putting the pressure on McGrath, and McGrath bobbles. It definitely was a benefit to have a little longer legs.
For perhaps the first time in over 3 years, McGrath would now find himself in unfamiliar territory as the rookie Damon Huffman began to show the champ he was for real.
Yeah, we were really surprised he was hanging with him, and he stuck the wheel in there a couple times. He definitely shook him up.
To see a guy like Damon Huffman just challenge him the way he did, but, you know, people were like, is this really happening?
For the first time this season, Jeremy McGrath, beyond the second lap of the race, has a challenge.
People were sensing that Jeremy was going to get beat.
Huffman! Oh my goodness, bar to bar! The crowd is going bananas!
The crowd is just standing on their feet.
And it started getting so loud in the Kingdom that I remember looking at Art Ekman. He's like, I can't hear you. I couldn't hear myself talking.
As the race wore on past the midpoint, the moist dirt in the Kingdom was beginning to take its toll on McGrath, while the lanky Huffman soaked up the ruts.
It's so ruddy, and you have so many different lines, and the lines are constantly changing.
The ruts, that was not that good, and it was definitely an equalizer.
Huffman breaking into the corner now, has the angle to take over the lead.
There was a lot going on that race when we planned on kind of maybe having an easy weekend out of it.
Going into the triple, bar to bar. McGrath retakes the lead.
I would enter the whoops, and I blew right by him. They're coming into that whoop section again, and watch Huffman. Right back by him with 5 legs.
But Huffman himself could not escape the changing track conditions as the Seattle dirt began to wreak havoc on his Kawasaki's clutch.
By the midway point, I started getting some pretty major free play in my clutch.
So when you would pull the lever in, the clutch wouldn't disengage.
They got a huge lead over third place Lampson.
McGrath was given the inside and he took it.
I came into the first turn area, had the clutch in, and I think I just dragged a little too much rear brake, and the bike just stalled on me. Oh, Huffman stalled it!
He stalled his bike!
Just one of those moments where you just can't believe it.
You always can hear the guy around you. And if you go another couple corners and you don't hear him, you're like, oh, okay, something must have happened. Trust me, it was a relief.
Jeremy McGrath, his 4th consecutive victory, and a valiant effort by Damon Huffman, number 10.
Damon Huffman put in a great race that night.
He wanted to try to, be the guy that knocked off the king.
I mean, at that time, it was the 4th year, going on the 4th year of me winning races, and it didn't happen too much where I was battling with a guy. So, I mean, he deserved a lot of credit.
He gained a lot of confidence there.
It just made me even more hungry for the following weekend, trying to beat McGrath. I honestly had the confidence, the bike, and everything to do it.
From that night, there was a development on the motorcycle.
For the riders to be able to adjust the free play out so they could disengage the clutch.
The king and his court march into a new palace in St. Louis. Can any rider rise to the challenge of ending the streak? Stay tuned. It had been a long 1996 season since his close battle with Damon Huffman in Seattle. By round 14 in St. Louis, Jeremy McGrath's win streak had grown to an incredible 13 races in a row, and pressure was mounting for everyone involved as to who would take down the king at least once.
50% of me, I wanted to see Jeremy do it, and 50% I wanted to see if someone could knock him off.
The crowd themselves came there to watch Jeremy McGrath get beat.
If there was one rider who had a snowball's chance at ending McGrath's streak, it would be Kawasaki's Jeff Emig. St. Louis was home court for Jeff, which he would take full advantage of.
I got really good starts, and it was okay. I'm going to get the whole shot. We know that. But now what am I going to do with the rest of the race?
He really never was known for putting 20 laps together in a Supercross. I mean, he'd have some mistakes and stuff like that.
What am I going to do differently to win this race here tonight?
The gate will drop any second. Now it's gone.
Jeremy gets a terrible jump out of the gate.
Emig, good jump.
McGrath didn't get the start.
My head was not into this race like it should have been.
McGrath is about in 10th position right now, but then he shoots by 4 riders right before the next turn. Emig is our leader. LaRocco got a good start. There's Bill Lawrence, 13.
With his main rival in the lead, a bad start was just the first of McGrath's challenges that night. The always tough Michael Rocco was about to put on one of the best rides of his career.
When I caught up to Michael Rocco, I didn't think, oh yeah, this is going to be no problem. Maybe if we were at Anaheim, then it'd be no problem.
I knew I worked harder than anybody else. I mean, I used to take Taekwondo. I mean, I wanted to be able to physically beat everybody one way or another on that line.
Jeremy McGrath has been in this position before at different tracks with 3 riders in front of him. But he's always been able to get the break, the right move at the right time. LaRocco just won't let him take it.
I can make him run 20 laps, and then I have the best chance of beating him because he just didn't have to normally do it.
One guy that I'm really impressed with is Phil Lawrence because he has closed in the battle just ahead of these guys on Emig.
Phil Lawrence, who was one of my best buds, he was running second. He was keeping Emig honest.
Remember, he's riding basically, a privateer bike.
And then he had a little miscalculation, jumped into the bales and fell down.
LaRocco now starting to move inch up on Jeff Emig.
Mike was the faster guy. He made a miscalculation. I passed him.
And he cuts in front of LaRocco. Jeremy McGrath brings the crowd to their feet.
I remember that if I was in the race that I wasn't going to let it go easy.
2 corners later, he just railed me.
Bar to bar, McGrath takes the advantage of the triple. LaRocco, he gets the block pass. Oh, what great infighting.
The battle was really between LaRocco and me.
Just because you win 13 in a row doesn't give you a free pass.
Maybe I was rougher on him because I wanted to beat him more than I wanted to beat anybody else.
If he wasn't getting hammered by the riders, it was the changing conditions of the Missouri dirt that kept McGrath scrambling to keep Jeff Emig in his sights.
Gosh, it was so soft and so ruddy. I was doing all I could do to stay on the bike.
The track design itself probably threw Jeremy off a little bit.
The track was probably one of those tracks that was real easy to override.
You start trying harder, over jump and stuff. Well, when you start doing that, you're losing time, you're not gaining time.
A track like that really suited Jeff.
And I don't believe in time.
Mike LaRocco was leaving McGrath bruised in third and had caught Jeff Emig to make a play for the lead. It wouldn't last long.
Coming through the whoops. Great move by LaRocco to the inside. And then the double jump by Emig to retake the lead.
Yeah, I probably really wished I could get him back, try and stuff him back, but he ended up falling off the bike and messing himself up.
Now Emig, LaRocco bumps and comes off the bike. Jeremy McGrath leaps by him.
Now with LaRocco's jaw loose from his ankle, Jeremy would still scramble to find a pace or rhythm that had gotten him to the front 13 times before that season.
What was the call? I don't know. I didn't know. There was no plan. It was like, try hard to keep up, try and stay on as tight as I could to him in case he made a mistake.
Can Emig, with Jeremy McGrath behind him, hold on to the lead?
Up front, Jeff Emig would begin feeling the pressure of a dangerous McGrath advance, but he would keep his focus on the goal, a first 1996 victory against the man known as Showtime.
It just seems like I rode perfect laps. I didn't have the fastest laps, but it was consistently the same line every time.
1 lap to go.
Going with the white flag, it was, okay, no mistakes, perfect laps, keep hitting your lines.
We were obviously always looking to see where McGrath was because we expected him to come up and pass him, but it didn't happen, so it was cool.
Jeremy, instead of this attack position, he kind of dropped his shoulders like, it's just not going to happen.
It is Jeff Emig.
I got goosebumps right now thinking about that. Hitting that double and crossing the finish line.
Jeff rode a great race.
Jeff Emig, number 2 in front of Jeremy McGrath. The streak is broken.
Inside of my helmet, I mean, in my heart and in my mind, I was so happy. When I crossed the finish line, and I remember rolling down the start straight, and I'm doing this thing where I got my legs up, and I was, if I could have done a backflip off the bike, I probably would have. I just remember looking over at the mechanics area to J-Bone. It was like, dude, we did it.
It was definitely a good turning point for us.
Though Jeff Emig had won the battle that ended the King's streak that night in St. Louis, another Warriors effort did not go unnoticed.
Mike LaRocco basically set up the win for Jeff Emig.
Yeah, I think I helped him for sure.
Had Mike not been there, for me, the night would have gone differently, I think.
In my mind, it wasn't like Jeff beat me, it was more like I beat myself. I choose to look at it like that, and I'll take that with me when I die.
Next, a torch will be passed in 2001, but not before the King holds his sword high one last time in his own castle. And later, the race that is undisputed as the greatest ever. Jeremy McGrath's reign as the king of Supercross included an unbelievable 71 Supercross wins and 7 championships since the first in 1993. But in 2001, a new challenger, Ricky Carmichael, was ready to take the top spot on the podium. But there is only room for one on top, and Carmichael was going to have to dethrone the king in his own castle, Anaheim Stadium.
For any guy that was going to come up and beat Jeremy, you were going to have your A game, and you were going to have it for the whole race.
I knew it was going to be hard, you know, and I wasn't really sure yet if I believed that I could win.
The big question was, could he put it together for the 20 laps?
As the 2-minute board went up, anticipation was mounting before the 20 laps would unfold in front of 45,000 Anaheim fans.
Machines, and we're underway. The main event from Anaheim, round 3.
Carmichael found a great line, went into the lead.
There was no question Ricky was fast, and Ricky could run the pace, but how could he handle pressure?
Here comes Jeremy, but a good angle by Carmichael. Bar to bar we go, over the finish line. McGrath looks at Carmichael. Carmichael does not look at Jeremy, and Jeremy makes the pass.
Follow me, everything is all right.
While the King led the charge up front, Carmichael easily settled in behind, controlling the race at his own pace.
He pulled away, I pulled back, pulled away, but after about halfway, I could just stay right on him.
I remember some of the moments of the race where Ricky could have passed him.
The 7-time champion feels that pressure. He knows he cannot afford a mistake.
McGrath had been doing what he could to keep the young Kawasaki rider behind him. But on lap 16, that pressure was ratcheted up in a very obvious way.
You want to win, then you do what it takes. And if you got to clobber a guy, clobber him.
He has been known to be nasty on the track, you know, with no feelings.
There's the lap time, the last lap. Oh, they bang!
Looked like he bobbled into the corner and slammed Jeremy pretty hard. What did I do that for, you know?
I didn't need to do that much.
Jeremy was going to come back in on him, and Ricky knew that.
Paybacks are but in the moment, you want to win the race.
My plan was to go in and send him, if that was what it took.
Jeremy didn't know it wasn't on purpose.
He hit him on accident.
I was going to pass him. He turned so fast that he didn't have time to look. Well, I was already there, and I was basically stopped.
McGrath takes the lead.
Ricky was smart enough to know that like 60,000 people were going to give him the biggest boo in the world for winning a race.
He didn't want to win that way, and he knew Jeremy owed him one.
I was just being smart and not leaving the door open for him to just clean me out.
Jeremy would have done it respectfully. He would have respected to clean his clock.
After 17 laps, Jeremy McGrath could not shake the determined Carmichael, and it was wearing on the veteran Supercross champ.
The space between.
Just follow him and follow him and follow him and wait for the mistake.
I felt like I put together a pretty good 3/4 of a race, but at the end of the race, I was just holding on.
I knew that I had him covered. I knew that there's no way he's going to beat me.
Carmichael knows where he's faster than Jeremy, and he's just holding on to that right now.
Oh, Jeremy makes a little mistake. Carmichael to the inside.
I was blowing up inside like I was so tired, but my willpower and my heart wanted it more than my physical condition could take.
Champion can make a mistake and still win.
Jeremy has great acceleration as he comes across the finish line jump. The white flag is waving.
He knew that his time was up. He knew that, hey, this little redheaded kid, man, this is the new guy coming in. But you know what? This is my house, and I want to win here.
I didn't really care that I was going to get second. You know, I'm like, you know what, you can have this one. because I just knew in my mind that he wasn't going to get another one.
Into the whoops. Here comes Carmichael. The checkers for Jeremy.
Even though I won the race, I knew that might be the end of it, you know?
When it's over. That night in Anaheim would be Jeremy McGrath's 72nd and last win in his long career. And Ricky Carmichael now had the confidence to take his rightful place at the top of the Supercross kingdom.
After that race, I mean, I was just so happy. I had a lot of things go through my mind, and a lot of things clicked for me that night.
Once he got it in his head that he can take me in a late in a race if he had to, then it was over.
Those guys raced each other and the track, and they raced them clean and with respect, and it made for a great race.
All the things that I used to say. With 37 years of Supercross racing in the books, there is still one race that is undisputed as the greatest ever when we return.
She used to bring all the songs that she used to sing.
CBS Sports Spectacular presents Monster Energy AMA Supercross, an FIM World Championship sponsored by MX vs. ATV Alive. Pre-order now at GameStop. Toyota, moving forward. And by Honda, world leader in power sports. When you want the best, it's a Honda.
Until now, we've seen some of the greatest Supercross battles in history. Carmichael versus Stewart, and then himself. A bruising between David Bailey and Ricky Johnson. And finally, the reign of the king, Jeremy McGrath. But there is still one etched into the minds of racers and fans alike as the ultimate, the greatest Supercross race of all time.
Atlanta 1990 goes down as one of, if not the greatest Supercross of all time.
For me, it was the best race that I remember as a fan watching.
I was in the stands. My dad, Kevin Windham, and his dad, we were all watching it together.
There was 10 guys that could win.
You had Cooper, you had Stanton, you had Kudrowski, you had Bradshaw, you had O'Mara, you had Johnson.
Wardy.
Man, they were the best of the best.
The sheer size of Fulton County Stadium provided a footprint perfect for Supercross racing.
They built a track in there that was a track among all tracks.
Atlanta was a good track for me. It had good dirt.
And the track is always soft and gets ruts, so it even makes it better where you can change up stuff.
There was different lines you could pass. It was a really good passing track.
And round 5 of the Supercross Series will be underway, and there they go.
You know, for Johnny to get the whole shot, you know, I mean, that was kind of odd.
With O'Mara in front, it wouldn't take long for the hungry pack of Supercross wolves to run down the wounded Osho.
You could tell that things started happening, and he got overwhelmed quickly.
Look at that. And look at that. As inside of Johnny O'Mara goes number 1. That is your series champ, Jeff Stanton.
You know, we dropped him in a matter of a few laps.
They are shuffling 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th spot like hot potatoes. Matasevich is coming, so is Kudrowski.
There was so much happening in the first few laps that announcers Larry Myers and Dave Despain were having trouble keeping track of the action.
I've never seen riders 3 and 4 abreast going through whoop section back and forth. It's impossible to keep up with.
Current Supercross champion Honda's Jeff Stanton found his way into 2nd. But like others would find out, the whoop section would prove infallible, putting Guy Cooper in perhaps the best position of his career.
Right down the middle of the whoops, it was V'd out really ruddy, and I struggled in that. I couldn't hop through them, I couldn't get a rhythm, so I was off in the deep stuff.
So, whoa, the champ's in trouble. Into the bales goes Jeff Stanton.
Honestly, that's where the race was won and lost in the whoops.
That was a gimme there.
There goes Cooper. What a pass. I don't know where he found the room. I don't know where he got the drive. He's blasted by David Bradshaw and has taken over the number 1 spot.
I feel bad for Guy Cooper. I mean, he's riding really fast and ends up stalling it.
Cooper man. They call him Sky Cooper. They call him, Cooper stalls the bike.
I knew I hit too much rear brake. The bike just stalled immediately.
Guy was, I think, bridesmaid in probably 8 to 10 Supercrosses that he could have won.
The beast from the east, Yamaha's Damon Bradshaw would now take over, with Honda's Ricky Johnson in 2nd. But Johnson's teammate, Mike Kudrowski, had other plans.
Kudrowski was the guy who was on the gas. He was on a mission because he passed everybody.
Once I passed Ricky, I said, you know what? I can win this sucker.
Look at Mike Kudrowski. Kudrowski is another one of those riders, as we said, was back there hovering around, and all of a sudden he's in 2nd.
That's when all heck broke loose.
Excursion and is trying to stalk his way back up. Oh, Kedrowski into Bradshaw.
He went through the whoops way out of control.
Luckily, he was there because I don't know where I would have ended up. Maybe I would have ended up in the stands or something.
Now look, Kedrowski is trailing about 1.5 miles of Super Challenge banners. They caught in his wheel.
And I went in the turn and just went high up on the berm, and it was like, I can't hold it here. And then I went in the hay bales, and I was like, well, that's it. I had my moment of glory there.
As the favorites fell by the wayside, Oklahoma and fan favorite Guy Cooper was looking at his first Supercross win, if he could hold off the bad boy Ricky Johnson.
It was my hope at the time that they would all just take each other the hell out and let me go win this race.
Look, there he's doing it again. That's Rick Johnson, vintage Rick Johnson, and Johnson has taken over the #1 spot.
Everybody thought Guy Cooper was squirrely, and he was.
They are really riding out on the ragged edge of Cooper totally sideways.
Because there was such a battle going up front, that's where all the focus was. So there was no focus on Jeff at all.
I don't think I saw my chalkboard that whole night. You know, I mean, once I got in third, I think all I was looking for was how many laps were left.
For two-time Supercross champion Jeff Ward, patience was part of his plan, and the race had come to him. Now it was time to go.
It was a tough night because all the guys I had to pass were real fast guys, and it wasn't easy.
I didn't know that Jeff Ward was behind me, though. I didn't know he was in the race at all.
Ward's trying something different. It worked on Johnson. The crowd begins to go nuts. They're wondering if he can pull the same move on Cooper.
I wanted Cooper to win. You know, I was like, man, come on, come on.
You know, he had been so close so many times. I think everybody there wanted to see him win the race.
Jeff Ward has the adrenaline flowing, and at this point, I'm not going to count out Rick Johnson.
It's not until 15 or 20 feet before the corner that I realize there's even a bike on the inside.
There he goes. Same place. You're right, Dave. Same line.
I know he was shocked when he got passed by Wardy.
There was nothing I could do.
And the checkered flag is Jeff Ward with a triple pumper.
I still remember the fist pump over the line.
That's all I wanted to do was win so I could do the triple pumper.
He was like 6th or 7th at one time. I did not expect him to win.
To let the race kind of come to you doesn't always happen, you know.
He earned it, that's for sure.
Guy Cooper's ride stands out that night.
He gave it everything he had, and you gotta love that.
It was one of the races that I really thought I had won.
The race was awesome.
There was 6 to 8 guys that could have won the race that were leading at one time.
It was unclear who was going to win the main event all the way through. What more can you ask for as a fan?
You want to go to the race and see your guy have a chance to win, man. And that race had that.
You know, there was so much emotion in this roller coaster. I think that's what made that race real special.
The best Supercross race of all time.
These have been the great Supercross races of the past, but a new dawn has risen upon the stadiums of the nation, with the current Supercross warriors facing off each other, as well as the treacherous tracks. Names like Kennard, Reed, Villapoto, Dungey, and Stewart. In 2011, we may have already witnessed the next greatest Supercross race in this year's Round 3 at Dodger Stadium on January 22nd.
Metcalf trying to come around the outside. He's got it. Chad Reed has his problems. Oh, down goes Metcalf. The two-time champ takes the move on Dungey. Stewart so quick through the whoops. He tries the inside on Dungey. He got him. Here he comes. Oh, and just as Dungey had a great move lined up, Wyndham got in the fight. Here's Kennard now. Can you believe this? Villapoto's got second. Here's Villapoto. Almost loses the traction on the bike, and then 41 is there. Kennard for third. Stewart is down. Villapoto's in the lead. Kennard and Dungey are by. Stewart to the inside. Oh, a strong move. The inaugural Monster Energy AMA Supercross and FIM World Championship victory at Dodger Stadium.
How many more of these epic battles await the riders and Supercross fans as the seasons unfold?
Jumping jacks now.